Pregame.com.
I'm Vegas Runner, here with a special guest and my new partner breaking down games. Doesn't need any introductions. Bryan Leonard, not in the sportsbook industry at least.
Well, a lot of people out there don't know about me, but I have been in Vegas for a while.
I knew about you before I even met you because I know you bet. You know, you're one of the guys that does walk to the window and bets money. So we're here to break down some games. We're going to start off with Mississippi State and Auburn. Mississippi State goes in as a 6.5-point favorite. Line hovered around 7 for a while, but back at around 6.5 as we speak. This was going to be my best bet, but instead I uncovered something in the pros. But this is my play. I like Auburn. I think this line gets to 7. That's where the value is. What do you think?
I agree. I was down at the Golden Nugget for when they had the games of the year, and this game opened up at -1.
Yeah, Mississippi State won, right?
Yeah, Mississippi State won, and now it's at 5.5. I mean, it didn't actually open at 1. Auburn actually was a 3.5-point favorite. But the way they do it down there is you can bet 3 games at a time, 1,000 apiece. And by the time we got there, we were only able to get basically pick 'em.
Right.
But then after like 1 or 2 days, it settled in at 1. Nobody's betting it. And so basically you're getting a 5.5-point line move basically off of what happened last week.
Yeah, one knee-jerk reaction, and that's my reasoning. We all knew coming in, Cam Newton wasn't going to be the starting quarterback anymore. We knew Auburn's returning the least amount of starters than any other team in Division I. So when they created that line, and Mississippi State was at 1 at the Golden Nugget, like you said, that was already known. It's not like this line is because of that reason. I think this is totally based on Mississippi State blowing out their opponent last week and Auburn having a tough time being down with 3 minutes left, having to overcome 10-point deficit against a Utah State team. And I don't see that there's enough reason to jump that many points, at least to myself. I could be wrong, but breaking down this matchup, I really couldn't uncover why this line should move 6 points.
Yeah, I agree. It's a situation. Believe me, I'm not an Auburn fan. I bet Auburn season wins under before the season started.
Right.
Number one, because I knew just about everybody.
And most sharp bettors faded Auburn in those games of the year at the Golden Nugget. Mississippi State got faded as well, but Auburn was faded on most of the games, correct?
Yeah, I agree. And Mississippi State was one of the teams I'm looking to bet against as the season goes on because I happen to think they're overrated.
Yeah.
And I even had this conversation a couple weeks ago. I said, hasn't Auburn gotten to the point right now where there's actually going to be value on them?
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And when you look at the season win totals, Mississippi State was only projected to win 7.5 games. So it's not like they're a 10-win team. And now all of a sudden they're going into Auburn as 7-point favorites. Auburn's won 9 of the last 10 in this series.
Right.
They've covered 7 of the last 10. And I heard earlier Mississippi State has revenge. They've had revenge every year, and they haven't been able to get it. So revenge isn't a factor here.
Right.
I think that one of the key factors here is this. These two coaches don't like each other ever since the Cam Newton incident. These are two coaches that have bad blood. I think Auburn was looking ahead to this game. I mean, it's not difficult to overlook Utah State. I think for Auburn, this was the game they were looking ahead to. Where with Mississippi State, they have LSU on deck, primetime game next Thursday night. I think Mississippi State may take this Auburn team lightly. Now you say you beat a team's beat you 9 out of 10 times. You shouldn't take them lightly. But they saw last week Utah State ran right through them. And when you look at the stats, what Mississippi State did, they put up 59 points against Memphis. And, Chris Reef looked like a Heisman candidate. And I think the weakness for Mississippi State has always been the quarterback position in the last decade. And I don't think it's upgraded as much as people think.
Yeah, I'll disagree with you on that Auburn overlooked Utah State. The reason being it's first game of the year.
Right.
And, I'm a little bit older than you are, but even at my age, I realize kids get excited. And to be able to play on, just about every game's on national TV, and all you've heard all season long.
You're defending champs.
You're defending champs, but more importantly, all you've heard all season long is look at all the players they've lost. They're not going to be any good. And when they come out in the first game and then they stink, and they really did.
Right.
They did not play well in that first game. But on the other hand, the world number one in betting this week week number 2 of college football, don't overreact. And so they looked at this and they said, well, you know what? I said, we're a lot better than what we showed last week. So they've got a lot more motivation here than Mississippi State does, even though Mississippi State is in revenge.
I agree. And I think Auburn, Mississippi State is feeling great. I mean, and we know you're never as great as you look or as bad as you look. And Mississippi State, though, looked phenomenal. So I don't think there's too much they're going to be worried about in practice and we have to fix this, we have to fix that. Auburn, on the flip side, this week in practice for them, it's we can't let this happen to us again. Right. We may not be able to come back against Mississippi State like we did against Utah State. But here they are, an SEC school that just won the national championship, and they're probably going to go off as a 7-point dog at home. And for a second, I'm like, am I a square for taking the points? Like, you know what I mean? Is this one of those things where I'm just falling for it, and here's a team that, you know, I'm just thinking is better than they are? But I don't think the public's going to jump all over Auburn. I really think they're going to get some two-way action. And if anything, I think Mississippi State will be tied into the majority of teaser action come Saturday, just to have to win the game.
Yeah, I agree. There's a ton of value here on Auburn. If I catch 7.5, it's going to be on my card. I don't think we'll see it. I think it's 7 for a little bit. But, you know, you're looking at a team, they lost a lot of players. But they've got one of the best recruiting classes, and that's what he was hired for. Chiswick was hired because of his recruiting. Right. Because if you remember, he was coming off at Iowa State. He didn't do anything at Iowa State. Yeah, exactly. And when he was hired, even I said, they can't get anybody better than that. But he's always been a great defensive coordinator, and he's a great recruiter. So they still got, you know, this is an SEC school. It's not like, you know, you're looking at Ohio U or something where you've got a couple great players and they go to the NFL.
And that's it.
Yeah, look at Central Michigan when Lefebvre went to the NFL. And
that was it, downhill after that.
So, you know, they can't recruit the type of players that these guys can. And it's a national championship team. Who does not want to play for the national championship team? From the
exactly. That's where I think this is a team that the cliche, but I think it holds true that, you know, they reload, they don't rebuild. Yeah. I'm a little worried that last week they only rushed for 78 yards and they allowed 227. So I'm afraid that Vic Ballard may have a big day, but I really think that, you know, this team is a lot better than they looked last week. I think we saw the worst of Auburn last week. And I really think we're going to see a much different team come out this week from Auburn. And I liked what their quarterback, what Trotter did. He looked good. He's not Cam Newton, but I mean, I thought he looked good. He 261 yards passing, 17 of 23, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think he looked good. He's not running for the Heisman or anything, but I really think he looked good. And I think as the season progresses and this young team gets more experienced, I think we may find value with Auburn going forward.
Yeah, from this point on, there's nothing but value because everybody before the season discounted them, and they said, well, after the first week, well, this is exactly what we expected. I don't think we expected that.
No.
My thoughts on the running game is Utah State, after you lose the number 1 draft pick going to the NFL as your quarterback, Utah State's thinking, okay, well, we've got an untested quarterback in there. We're just going to hold out for the run. And that's why probably Auburn didn't get a lot of rushing yards. So, you know, there's something there. But also, you take a look at Mississippi State.
That's a real good point.
You know, you look at class differences here. And Mullen, since he's been at Mississippi State, is 2-8 straight up against top 25 teams. Now, Auburn at this point is probably not a top 25 team, but Mississippi State can still win this game and not cover the spread.
Yeah.
And, you know, the last time they gave up more than 5 points on the road was in 2008 against Louisiana Tech, and they lost that game straight up. So this is a situation where Mississippi State has gone from being an underdog in just about all their games for all these years. Now they're starting to get a little bit of press.
And getting the favorites role.
And that's the difference. A lot of these guys, especially when you're laying a lot of points, when you've got a team that for a long time doesn't win, then all of a sudden they start playing well, they just want to win the game. They don't want to blow somebody out.
It's not about covering numbers.
Yeah, it's not about worried about blowing somebody out. It's like, let's win the game. And they haven't progressed to that point yet. And I think that's a problem right now with Mississippi State.
So you agree with me there?
I agree. If I catch 7.5,
you're all over
I'm all over Auburn.
All right. I like Auburn even at 7. That's the number I'm holding out for. I've already seen it out there, so I don't think I'll have a problem getting down on it. But why not wait? You may find a square shop that may go up to 7.5 if they're getting one-sided with. It's too early to tell right now. But, you know, even at 7, I think Auburn is the value side. That's my pick this week. Fortunately, Brian agrees with me, so that makes me feel better. We're going to be back with another college football game and 2 pro games for Sunday's action.